Welcome back, everyone, to episode 51 of the Minot Business Podcast, presented by Bennett Creative Media. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, and on the show today, we have the one and only Matt Morelli. Matt, how is it going today?
Pretty good, thanks.
That's what I like to hear. Before we get started, if you have not already, please rate and review the show. If you could take 5 seconds to leave us a rating and review, it really helps spread the word to new audiences and attract new guests for you guys each and every week, and we really appreciate the support. So, Matty Mo, let's get into it. What is your elevator pitch, your one line of telling people, what you kind of do?
Well, I'd say making it as quick as you can. We've kind of got everything. Everybody always thought of Morelli's Distributing as mainly just selling beer, but over the years it's just evolved into more and more non-alcoholic products, beverages, and paper products, cleaning supplies. So it just seems to, like, with what's going on, we're going by all these places that aren't just bars and liquor stores. So we're like, we can pretty much sell everything.
Okay. So I didn't even know the extent, I guess, I knew you guys sold snacks and stuff here and there, right? But I didn't know that there was other stuff as well. So we'll kind of get into the product. But before, let's start at the beginning. What is the origin story of Morelli's Distributing? Where did this?
It goes way back when Reggie first came to town, and he had somebody that knew him. I don't think knew him real well, but just said he was new to town and got a hold of him somehow. He was on a trip, vacation somewhere, and said, hey, there's this guy that's going to be retiring / selling a beer business. I think he had some health issues, and so got a hold of him, and Reggie flew back to North Dakota and checked things out. And next thing you know, we were moving to Minot, North Dakota. I was a young kid, and it was I think he just back in those days there was only a couple brands, like he had 3-4 brands of beer, and that was it.
Yeah,
nothing else.
None of this fun seltzer stuff.
So it was really just you concentrated just on a couple lines of beer. It was like Pabst Blue Ribbon, maybe Olympia. I think Grain Belt came shortly after that.
Okay,
but there wasn't any of the other supplies like we have now. So it was just beer only.
Strictly beer.
Yep.
So you aren't originally from Minot then. Where did you guys move from?
No, I was born, my brother Pat and I were born in Crookston, Minnesota.
Okay.
So only my sister Gina was born in Minot, but we came to, Reggie got the business rolling in 1971. So we're 52 years old, and it's passed down. Reggie's passed on, but my mom still lives here in Minot, and so we've kind of kept things rolling for Reggie, and he just, we're looking, we always like to find ways to expand. There's that, like I said, the non-alcoholic side has become such a big player in business with filling a truck up. And, we're a small community, and we're Laguna rural. So you go out in the country, and instead of just beer, you're bringing them bottled water and paper, and like you said,
root beer. I know Willard loves the root beer.
Yeah, you bring in 1919 root beer and snacks and things that most people wouldn't really think of, but it's become such a vital part. It's almost a 50-50 of our business. It's 50% beer and 50% non-alcoholic stuff.
Okay, so then I want to get into that a little bit, but let's talk about you first. So when did you get into the family business? How old were you? Were you kind of just...
I guess when it seemed like when Pat and I were younger, we'd always go on the truck, and we'd work with the older guys, and they weren't necessarily older. They were just they were probably in their 20s, and young guys, some college guys, but it was just such a fun thing to do. We got to ride around the beer truck, and we thought we were pretty cool. Or we'd see our buddies, and we're out hauling beer around and running into stores, and they weren't the businesses weren't as strict as they are now, where kids can, in those days you could just go into bars and liquor stores as
do whatever.
7th, 8th, 9th grader and help out delivering. Now some of the stores you need to be 21 even to deliver in there.
Okay.
Bars you don't have to be, but the liquor stores, some of them get a little picky, but it's been a long time. We always kind of just worked around the warehouse, and whatever Reggie told us to do, we kind of just showed up. And it was even more in the summertime when we had a little more time. We put some extra hours in there, but during the winter, you got school, so you're not working as much. Maybe on the weekends a little bit. We'd go a Saturday morning, we'd go help for 2, 3, 4 hours, make, you know, 20, $30 back in those days. We thought we were
Loaded.
We
Yeah.
thought we were going to go start buying a bunch of things. But,
Yeah.
I think as long as when Reggie, he was taught us at an early age that you're going to work and you're going to do whatever you can to make the business better and learn about going on the truck and we did everything. We washed trucks. We had a recycling business for a while. We recycled cans, and we didn't really care. When you're a kid, you don't really care.
Yeah.
You just want to go and work and make a little extra money. And plus, it seemed like all our friends thought, God, the beer guys, those guys are cool.
The beer guys.
Yeah, the beer guys. Yeah, good to work with.
Those Morelli brothers.
Yeah, so we had it pretty good. We had it pretty good when we were kids. We had our share of fun, but we liked being out in the market, and that's where Reggie was so good at. He was such a good people person, so we were kind of that's how we learned. Being around that type of atmosphere.
So you've been in the business as long as you can remember, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. I'd say probably about that, junior high age, 7th, 8th grade. You kind of started to get into it. Once you got your license, then you could kind of not necessarily drive all the trucks, but you were like working in a little bit more in the warehouse responsibility. You could drive the forklifts, and guys didn't have to worry. We didn't have to watch over us so close.
Okay. So then was there anything where you went a different avenue, or was it, hey, I graduated from high school or graduated from college and then now I'm just in the family business? Or did you ever have aspirations to go do something else besides Morelli's?
I think after college, I think I always I always knew in the back of my mind I would someday be in the beer business. I actually applied for some interns in college, my last year in college at North Dakota. And I wanted to be to go and work for someone else as an intern. I didn't get the one intern I was looking for down in the cities. And I thought, well, worst case, I come home and I go back and work for Morelli's Distributing. And Reggie I came back after my 5th year of school and he just said, you're going to be a sales guy.
Yeah.
You're going to learn how to sell. And I went with a guy that still works for us, Jerry Gooch is his name. And him and I kind of just followed him around. Wherever he went, I just kind of was stuck by his side, and I learned tips and I picked up things and made a lot of notes to myself and mental notes and went to a couple sales seminars. I remember when Reggie said, they're going to send a couple of you guys to like a salesmanship class.
Okay.
And it was like a seminar, and there was a guy, I was in Fargo, and I was a young guy, so I didn't pay attention the whole time, but my takeaway, I learned a couple things about selling, that just about the details, paying attention to what people think and having a conversation with them instead of just walking in and out and asking for business and not getting it. And some you get. Yeah. And
because that's what I was going to ask. What is that sales process like? A lot of people are like, oh, salesman, right? But what is it like how do you be a good salesman?
I think it's more than just being aggressive. I think showing a caring side, that when you're talking to a customer, you care about them. You're not just in a hurry, that you want to maybe have a conversation with them, saying, well, see what their life's like, what they do on the week, what they do for fun, and get to know them a little bit, because I think you got to gain their trust, so that if you're going to be selling them all kinds of things, beer and paper and water and Red Bull and the things we carry, that they feel comfortable with you if they have to call you and say, hey, Matt, I'm low on something. I think might run out. Can you bring me another keg or two or something? You get times where we used to get a lot of calls on the weekends, where now you've improved and you know what you can get away with certain customers. But I think that showing them that you care and that you have so many different accounts, but you can treat them a lot alike, but you still have to treat everyone a little different in a different kind
personalized,
of way.
Yeah.
So, and I guess I always learned from that one seminar that if you don't know something, you will make a note and find out. Say, I will get your name, number, and I'm going to get you an answer. I kind of never forgot that. I always just thought, if you can do a follow-up, even if you don't know what they want or have no idea what kind of product they need, you can get as many details and say, I'm going to get back to you, and I'll get you an answer for you.
I like that, because that goes back to, even if there was something where you guys couldn't help them with, at least they feel like they've been helped.
For sure. I just think a lot of times, especially on the paper side of our business, that some people, like these newer businesses that start up in Minot, they don't really know what they need. They don't necessarily need maybe a high end product, but they just want average or a little above average. Doesn't have to be the most expensive, but you get some of the professional offices in Minot. They want maybe a certain color towel. They want maybe a white towel because it looks more professional. And if you're in a bar setting, the bar owner or manager maybe doesn't really care what type of grade the toilet paper is.
Yeah. He's like, it could be one ply. It could be half ply. I don't know if they sell half ply.
Just as long as it's something that serves the purpose.
Yeah. It just has to be there for looks.
Right.
So going into the family business a little bit more, then a lot of people say don't go into business with family, but we've had multiple people on here that are in family businesses, and it doesn't seem to be that way. So what is it like working in a family business? And you're obviously around family members every day.
I mean, there's good and bad times. There's I think it's a challenge every day. I kind of tell Pat that it's a grind. We kind of grind it out every day with family members. When Reggie was alive, he had a certain way of doing things. He was more in and out, but when he was running the business, he was the sole owner. So he didn't really have to report to anybody, where now we have partners. We got my two brothers, and then we got my sister, Gina. So you kind of got to maybe run something by the four owners before you just all of a sudden start doing things. But it's stressful at times, but it's also a business that with these non-alcoholic products that have become so popular, they're products that people are familiar with. Arizona tea and Gatorade and the Red Bull and bottled water. You think back years ago when we first started selling the 5-gallon jugs of water.
Okay.
And there'd be a lot of people. I'd make a lot of cold calls. There's not as much of that now, but when I was making cold calls, learning about selling, and people would come back and say, I'm not going to pay for a bottle of water. I'm like, well, okay. So it was you'd have a couple tough customers, and this one customer, I said to him, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a cooler to use for a couple months, and you just buy the water and you see what you think. And so I didn't hear much from him, and because he always told me, he goes, I'm not going to pay for a bottle of water. And so I think I even gave him a couple jugs of water, and I said, if you don't like it after 3 months, I'll come pick it all up. And I went to pick it up one day, and because I hadn't heard from him, and he goes, well, geez, he goes, I think I'm actually going to keep this.
Like, don't take my water. Yeah.
So he didn't want it, and he was a customer from then on. And that was just when the kind of the start of the bottled water industry really got popular. Okay. Where now, look at when you go out, you see bottled water everywhere.
Right here.
Yeah,
it probably was a fallacy that, why would I ever buy bottled water? Yeah.
It's just, there aren't many people that say, I really enjoy tap water. It's the best. Yeah. Not too many people are really saying that. So the bottled water industry has grown. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And you go into these stores and you used to see small sections of it. Now there's
huge sections. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 20, 30, 40 feet, a whole aisle of bottled water. Everybody's got their own flavors, and some are the brand names and some are the private labels.
Yep.
It's all selling.
Yeah. So I suppose, you just kind of have to get it in front of people, and then they realize.
You do. Yeah, you do. And I mean, drinking water is healthy. I mean, you probably, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and people, you really only drink tap water unless it's your only
forced
choice.
To. Yeah.
You don't really have nothing else to pick from. And granted, people, you have to pay for bottled water, but it's
cheap.
Right. You can get good deals. You want certain brands, you pay a little more.
Yeah.
If you want decent brands, it's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. I always know that I always have a case of water somewhere, just because I hate going. I have a Brita, like if I want sink water, but I hate going back, filling it up, drinking it. I'll just grab a bottle, take the cap off. Yeah, and you're ready to go. So I want to go back to the family business a little bit then. How do you balance the family relationships and then the business decisions? Do you kind of just leave it at work, or how does that, because obviously you got to see these people at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And
you do, yeah. There's ups and downs. I mean, there's I think Pat and I we are real close just because we're only a year apart. So growing up, we did everything kind of together. All his friends were mutual, and my friends were his friends too, because we were so close in age. So we've always just had a good working relationship. We bounce everything off each other to make sure things are okay. But there's times where you're going to have in every family, there's no perfect one out there. I've always thought to myself, but you make it work, and you kind of, sometimes you got to compromise a little bit. But
yeah. And that's what I've always wondered, because I don't work with any of my family members, but I'm like, wonder how it actually is. Because if I had to work with, I don't have any brothers, but my sister or my dad or something, how would it actually be if there'd be any bickering? But I suppose you just kind of have to draw that line of, we're not going to let it get too crazy where all of a sudden we don't want to see each other for a year and a half.
Correct. Yeah.
So you guys are obviously part of the Minot community. How does community in general, but the Minot specific community, influence Morelli's distributing? How is it being a part of the community?
It's good. I mean, you're in a business that Reggie's been, he was around a long time, and he was real a good promoter. He was aggressive with getting out in the market and going places and spending money. You kind of got to spend money to make money. And it's like, kind of like we want to help programs and groups. We don't really say no to when somebody needs help. There's always a fundraiser for whatever the case may be. And it just seems like if there's one, there's always a circle of friends. You've got a circle of friends, and I've got a circle of friends, and a lot of them know the same people. So it just seems like when we're trying to do a good deed for someone in town, if we choose the one time to not do anything with them or help them, it seems like I just don't think mine's big enough where you can do that.
Yeah.
So we like to kind of keep on the good side of everybody. We want to be known as a company that will help, and it will help people in need. There's always people that are maybe falling on tough times, or somebody gets sick, or a family member is going through a health issue with it, and they need some financial help. So we're always we want to do the right thing. I think we do the most of the time. There's times where if we're unsure, we just put our heads together and say, well, if we're in doubt, we probably should do it.
Yeah. So do you think that helps with the longevity then? Has a business always been like that?
I think so. Reggie, I think he was always willing to help people. I think sometimes it was maybe there was two sides to it. He figured if we helped somebody out, not that you expect somebody to give you business in return, but it just looks good. Mm-hmm. Or if you're asking somebody for a favor, they know that you've helped out. Say I've helped out a group of one of your friends that somebody had a tough break, and if we help them out, and you want to maybe ask for a favor of somebody, there's a business owner in that group, and they say, oh yeah, I see you guys helped out Easton Bennett's one friend that was that had a health problem. So I think that there's good ways to do it. Sometimes Reggie didn't always like to do it, and he would do it. He just didn't want people to know he was doing it.
Okay.
He would kind of do it kind of like under the radar.
Sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, I think there's times where people ask people for a donation of some sort. We get hit up a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times in the Reggie days, he was old school, so he would just use cash. Yeah,
cash
he would
is king.
he would just whip out some cash and say, here you go, and put this towards that fundraising group or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And of course, then he just that was his way of doing it. Where he didn't want people kind of tracking him down all the time. So, and he didn't. Sometimes he did a lot of it where he just didn't want. You just did it anonymous. He didn't want.
He's like, meet me in the back alley at 7 p.m.
Yeah,
Slides
it was
an
a
envelope.
few of those. We always call it the Italian handshake, where it's kind of like stuck in your palm of your hand.
Yep.
But that was his way of doing it. He was. I think a lot of older people they want to handle cash. Where I'm older than you, but I like to use a card and have you kind of these days you need a receipt, or some form. You got to have a paper trail.
It,
yeah. So to track it, and some people you can do that with cash, and other people. But I think with the company, if we're having a good year and things are successful, which most of the time they're pretty good, I think if you're a business owner, you almost have to give back to the community, because if you're not, I think you're in trouble. It's gonna come back, and it's not gonna be good.
Because it's just bad karma coming your way.
I agree. I think that if you're doing your best to help people or help a business or a church or somebody that's trying to raise money for a good cause, if you can't at least give them something, I think you need to take a look at your life and start from scratch.
So pivoting a little bit then, 2020, obviously crazy year. Did the pandemic help or hurt the beverage industry, do you think?
Well, I think at first it was tough because, for one, we couldn't get product.
Oh yeah, I suppose the
Yeah,
supply chain was horrible.
We were having trouble getting what we wanted on time. They just there was like a lot of food and beverages have a pull date, expiration date.
Yep.
So beer is expire that date on most of our packages is the expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
So these breweries basically just said, listen, if it goes past the date, it's okay. We're not going to judge you or give you a bad score because you had outdated product, because most of the time there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But when COVID, we Pat and I kind of said, we're going to do everything we can so we don't have to lay anybody off.
Yeah.
That was our goal, was to not to let any employees go. And we think we did a pretty good job of that. We rode it out. We kind of weathered the tough times there for a while, and it got a little bit better and better. And of course, it was like on the paper supplies, when you're talking to COVID, it was the masks and the sanitizers and everything was so, can't get COVID. And so we had trouble getting a lot of stuff, and it's hard when you want to have you're trying to get sales, and that's what our business is all about, distribution. Yeah. And you just can't get it. You have people that want to buy it.
Nothing to distribute. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And price wasn't even an issue. They didn't care what the price was on a lot of products. We just couldn't supply it to them.
Yeah.
So that was frustrating.
Yeah. Cause that's what I always wondered when I was running my business. I wasn't deep enough into it for it to really affect anything. I was still making videos in my parents' basement. So I always like to ask business owners, what was it actually like for the people that were in the nitty gritty? Matt, before we get into any more questions, we're going to hear from this week's sponsor. Is your business moving up and to the right? Put Midco's business technology to work for you so you never have a slow day at the office. From premium internet and phone plans to custom private networking and advertising, they have a solution for every type of business, large or small. Get paired with an account representative to create your suite of services and make the switch with ease with dedicated business client fulfillment and support teams. No data caps, flexible contracts with month-to-month or long-term options, built-in DDoS protection, and more. Explore services and request a free consultation at midco.com/business today. Thank you, Midco, for sponsoring this week's episode. If you guys are looking at checking out some of their services, head over to midco.com/business. All right, Maddie, let's get back into the questions here now. So how do you guys go about marketing and visibility to get the Morelli's name out there? Is a lot of it word of mouth, or what are you guys doing as far as that goes?
I think most people know that we're the beer distributor. I think in these last several years, we'll say last probably a good, maybe I'd say pre-COVID, like maybe the mid 10 years ago, it just seemed like the paper, we were always making good strides. During the boom was busy. The numbers were, it was easy to sell everything during the boom, but I think a lot of it is our relationships. We know somebody. It'd be like you and I visiting, and you say, hey, I got a good buddy over at so-and-so business, and I don't think I've met him. Do you mind if what's his name again? And I'll get his name, and I'll go over there and say, hey, I was talking to Easton, and said you got, I didn't even know you had this business. And we get a lot of those where it's the people's groups of friends intertwine, and then you meet people. And getting back to those cold calls, we don't have to do as many cold calls anymore. It seems like as people are calling us saying, hey, I know you guys have paper. We're a new place in town here. Can I get can I have a salesman stop by?
Yeah.
And we'll send a guy down and talk to him about the paper and the cleaning supplies and pretty much anything they need for that business. I mean, most places, they have a bathroom. They're probably going to need towels, soap, toilet paper.
Yeah.
Offices, copy paper, and you get a garbage liner. So it's kind of an easy sell. I think the hardest part is we just got to find who the buyer is.
Yeah.
And say, hey,
and build that relationship.
Johnny, hey, we have, what do you need? Like some places I think don't even need a catalog. We have paper catalogs, but most of them, they know exactly what they need.
Yeah.
And it seems like in these last few years with just COVID or right before that, they just want to know that we have it. As long as we have it on hand, so that they're not having to run to the store and say, hey, we're out of toilet paper.
Go to Walmart.
Or yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Making a grocery store, Walmart, Target run, nothing against those stores, but we deliver it, bring it right to them, put it in whatever room they want. There's no delivery charge. I mean, if you send an employee up to a store, that person's probably on the time clock. So
yeah,
you're paying them, even though people say, oh yeah, we just go to the store. Well, they're not doing it in their free time.
Yeah.
They're going to do it on work time. So
your employees are not like, I'll just do it tonight after I'm done working.
Right. Nobody does that. So I guess our selling point is we have it on hand. We'll bring it right to you, whatever day. We usually try to coordinate a route with the rest of what part of the city they're in. And most of them will just call the warehouse and say, hey, it's blah, blah, blah's business here. I need, here's my order for the week. And we're like, great. We'll be there either tomorrow or the next day. We usually, a lot of times it's usually the next day or 2 days out, depending on the schedule. But most places, I think they want the peace of mind. They don't have to worry about going out into the market and buying it.
Yeah.
They can just have a list. You see a lot of places, they just start a list and say, here's my list. I got to give Morelli's a call, or the salesman will be coming by. I'll just give it to him when he comes. And
makes it easier for them too.
Yeah, it is. And of course, when the guys are on the beer side, but when they're calling on a bar or a liquor store, that might be a little more selling involved. Maybe we have a promo on something where we say, hey, you've got I see Easton, you got the Super Bowl coming up. Okay, maybe we should add to the order a little bit because you're probably going to be busy. Or hey, it's like this graduation, high school graduation is coming up. Maybe we need to, you ordered 10. Maybe we should give you a 15 or 20, just so you don't want to run out of product.
Yeah.
Kind of like that type of selling.
So as far as product goes, then you started with the alcoholic products, obviously. When did it transition to you guys having the other cleaning supplies and the paper products and all of that?
Well, I would say it's from as long as I can remember, we always had like the mixers, juices, and the things for the bars, just the basics, plastic cups and straws and things like that. But then when I got out of school in the early 90s, it was Reggie just saying, go and sell wherever you can, whatever you can. Go, I don't care where you go. So after a few months of learning with Jerry Gooch, I just kind of I started to have my own route of paper stuff. And then I got sprinkled in. They gave me a few more beer accounts I could handle, a couple small bars, just to kind of get my feet wet. And then it just got more and more. And so along the way, and over all these years, we've picked up brands like Red Bull. It's a funny story with Red Bull. When it first started out, it was in the eastern part of the state. And it first came to like Fargo and Grand Forks. And of course, like a lot of things in North Dakota, it just trickles down. And maybe we're a smaller market, so we get things slower than other states. Yeah. And so the Red Bull guy wanted us to try Red Bull, and we called the distributor in Grand Forks, and he says, yeah, it's getting to be popular in the bars with Red Bull and vodka and Red Bull vodka as a mixer. So we said, well, we'll give it a try. So we ordered I think we ordered like 5 cases.
Yeah.
And Red Bull is expensive. And of course, when I first pitched it to a bar in mine, it doesn't matter because it was a different name, and the girl just thought I was crazy. She said, "Oh, I don't know if that's going to sell." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. If it doesn't sell, we'll pick it up and give you credit." And then, so about 2 weeks later, she called and says, when I went there, I think it was on a date. I didn't see her very often, and she said, "Hey, do you have any more of that Red Bull? I sold it all."
Can't get rid.
I said, "Yeah." And so it just evolved. And once all the bars kind of got rolling, when Red Bull, people were calling the warehouse saying, "Hey, we need this Red Bull product. Don't really know what it is other than it's an energy drink." And so I was telling Brother Pat, maybe you want to ramp our Red Bull up. And then finally one day, people from the Red Bull company came in and sent a person here to say, you're going to be our distributor from mine in North Dakota, mine in Williston.
Okay.
So it was one of those deals. So that one was kind of a lucky one to get Red Bull, and the waters and other things. We have products that you've heard of, like the Arizona tea and the 1919 root beer. You see them around town. And of course the non-alcoholic products, any age can drink those.
Yeah.
Where beer, of course, is 21 on up, but all those uh, waters and Karma and the things we sell that are the new products we have. We're kind of lucky to kind of have those in our warehouse, because these healthy drinks are starting to take over.
Oh yeah. Well, widens the audience of people you can sell to. Because if you're only selling 21, you got to be 21 to buy the product. It kind of limits it to.
Right. It is. You're right. You limit yourself to a certain group, where the non-alcoholic beverages, especially like the water, it's just, the popularity just gets bigger. It never slows down. And of course, a lot of our products, when it's warm in the summertime, that is really what drives the business.
I suppose.
We're kind of like a seasonal business. Not that it's terrible in the wintertime, but our busiest time are 4 or 5 months. It's May through about September. And once Labor Day hits, it really starts.
People slow down.
Yeah, there's a noticeable difference because school has started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the seasonal things from summer are kind of starting to wind down.
No 4th of July, no Memorial Day. Okay.
Right.
Do you have a favorite product then? Let's go favorite product that you like, whether it's, drinking or eating, and then one you like to sell. And one you want to get
I'd say
places.
like a favorite product. Beer. Yeah. I've always liked Coors. I like the Coors products. I think they're all good. On the non-alcoholic side, we've got some up and coming new brands that one is called Poppy. It's kind of a prebiotic soda. That's a new one. We've just picked up the Fiji water.
Okay.
Everybody's kind of heard that. It's kind of like a little more expensive, but you take things like that. The 1919 root beer is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's made in Minnesota. So, things that we're getting that are almost like a local, you almost like to cheer for the underdog.
Yeah.
Because they're a smaller company. They're made in Minnesota, but we get a truckload at a time, and it just seems like it just sells. And your products, like, the waters are always good too, but the products that really move when they're just kind of a smaller group and they're just trying to get bigger and bigger, you seem like you want to push a little harder for those guys,
especially when they're competing with Barks and A&W. It's cool to see the underdogs win, like you said.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's there's a lot of products like that. It's hard to, I like Red Bull a lot too, but Red Bull is, some people don't like the sugar, and they don't want to be all the energy caffeine, type thing, and the caffeine, they think is bad. And that's fine. I get people's argument. They don't think it's good for you, but when you're selling on a national scale, where international, Red Bull is selling hundreds of millions of cases. Yeah. Somebody likes it. Yeah. Somebody is buying it. So, and those people that are buying it, they don't really care what it costs. They just, that's kind of the young people's coffee.
I was going to say, because last year when I was in Vegas, I think I maybe went through 100 million cases of Red Bull. I thought my heart was going to explode out of my chest. But then I was thinking about it, like, if you're a table playing whatever in Vegas and you drink 8 Red Bulls in an hour, okay, that's probably, you wouldn't do that in a normal day. You wouldn't just go drink 8 Red Bulls. So, but it kind of is the young person's coffee.
That's kind of what I compare it to. I think in the old days, guys my age, in the 40s, 50s, they would go into a C-store and buy a coffee and maybe a paper and maybe a little granola bar, where nowadays these young kids go into C-stores and they buy a couple big cans of Red Bull, maybe a can of Chew.
Yep. Box of candy.
They buy a hot stuffed pizza or, a couple. So they're spending $15 to $25 in a C-store. I used to get it where, like, the older people, they're spending a couple bucks, a coffee and maybe a paper.
Yeah.
Or like a donut, maybe a coffee and a donut. Mm-hmm. So I think the times have changed, and you look at the people's shopping habits, they're just, whatever age you are, there's a different kind of approach when you go into a store. Some people refuse to spend money on certain things, and then you can take another group of people that's all they're buying.
The only thing they'll buy,
is the ones that the other people don't buy.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting business. A lot of times we think about how lucky we are to have some of these brands, and we have brands that are for 21 on up, and we have a lot of supplies there for 21 and below.
Yeah.
So or basically from young to all the way up to older. When you're talking the water and these healthy drinks, we sell this one called Karma, and it's kind of a probiotic drink where you snap the top of the lid and the powder drains into the liquid. So there's things like that where it's getting to be more healthy.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the sign of the future.
What would you say the most rewarding aspect of, the day-to-day of Morelli's distributing is? What do you enjoy about it?
I'd say the most rewarding part probably is keeping things going. For Reggie started a good thing back 50 something years ago. He was lucky enough to get into it. And then to build it up to a level that's comfortable, that we can support numerous employees and their families. I think being a good community member, a good community partner, I think is important. He was always where he wants to spend money in the community. He wasn't really a big believer of billboards for advertising. He wanted to do his advertising in the market, going into maybe a bar or say you're in the liquor store and a guy, you see somebody he knew buying something of ours, and he'd tell us, hey, go get him another case of beer. Yeah. Of course, the person had no idea what was going on. They're like, well, I don't get it. And they're like, well, it's Reggie wanted to buy a case of beer. That's kind of how he chose to do his advertising and his promoting. He wanted to give it as much back as he could. And I think the older he got, then he wasn't able to maybe go out as frequent. Like a lot of places, you don't see a lot of older people going out maybe as much as a younger person would.
It is nice, though, having the personalized experience with a business, because you can slap Reggie's face on a billboard and it might get whatever done. But like you said, if there are times when you're going into a liquor store and you buy him an extra case of beer or you buy him whatever it is, it just makes it feel like you guys actually care about him, which obviously you do.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a good trade-off. We're always looking for ways. You want to get bigger, but you also realize you have to spend money. You got to go in the community. Even times when you really don't maybe feel like it, or you want to have other things to do, you just have to maybe make an appearance, and at least so people know that, hey, we saw a group of people and they're good partners, and I think it's good for business. Yeah.
So speaking of what's been good for business, Morelli's Distributing, is there any plans, for growth in the future? What are you guys trying to accomplish moving forward?
Well, we're always looking for different lines and products to carry. I mean, we get a lot of companies that come to us and say, hey, we'd like you to sell our product. Can we send you samples? Some we're selective. We take a good look at and say, do we need to carry this, or should we try it? And even though it's something comes to us with samples and we don't really think they're that great, doesn't mean the general public might not latch onto it. Yeah. But we usually, a lot of times we'll check with another distributor. We really lean on the guys down in Bismarck's, another beer distributor called Jerome's Distributing, and we bounce things off each other. We'll say, okay, hey, we've got some, what have you heard from this brand X company or this blah, blah, blah. And they're like, hey, I think it's going to be pretty good. We're thinking about taking it on. Maybe we can, so we'll partner up. Instead of ordering so much at one time, we'll say, hey, let's just get the minimum, and you take half, we'll take half, and let's push it. And then we'll compare notes in a month or two. But I mean, as far as expansion, if our numbers are growing and we're adding more employees, I think that's a good sign. We're always looking to get bigger, and with same thing with, just like with technology and equipment, we don't want our employees to think that, God, they're kind of like skimping on certain things out here. We want to keep up with what the competitors do. We might not always have the nicest of something, but we want to be as close to it as we can.
So speaking of employees, then future generations, are you wanting to hand this off? Do any of the kids want it? Or are they like, no, we're getting out of this?
I think it's going to be, they're going to step in there. Pat's got 2 boys already that work for us. One's in Minot, one's in Williston. And I think it's going to get better and better. I think when some of the other guys coming up, Mason is the oldest grandkid, but he's just following his dream of hockey. And so maybe someday when he's done, they'll want to come back. And I think it'd be nice where you can work side by side like Reggie did with us, and kind of teach you the ways and what things you want to show them the right way. I mean, everybody's got a different way. That's the American way. Everybody does things a little different, but I think with business, there's a lot of, you have to change a lot. Yeah. You've got to kind of be up for it. You have to like accept that things are going to be different. It might be every day. Yeah. And it seems like in the beer business and the miscellaneous business we're in with with all the supplies. There's never, there's not many dull moments. There's always so much variety, and you're going different. We always tell our guys, you're going to different places every day.
Yeah.
So it's not really boring. It's just, it's different. It's
something new.
It is. Yeah. It just seems like it's always go with products. And as we get bigger, you have more businesses to start up and say, hey, I'm a new whatever type of business, and they need supplies, or they want a water cooler, or they want a new bar, liquor store, or they want more, Red Bull or whatever. You're trying to grow the numbers because all these companies, you're growing and they want you to keep that momentum going. So if you maybe have a couple flat years, they're going, okay, what do we got to do to change it?
Yeah.
What do you guys need from us? So we're kind of the same way. We'll go into places that we visit with and say, what, maybe not that we're checking up on our guys, but we'll just say, is there any concerns or anything we need to know, or, how are they doing? How the driver's doing? Do you like your sales guy? And for the most part, we don't ever have too many issues. Every once in a while,
get this guy out of here.
Yeah, right. And very rarely. Most of the time, it's just like, hey, there was an issue where they put it in the wrong spot. But it's fixable fixable issues that are really kind of like the thing in life. Is just like, don't sweat the little things. As long as they don't become big problems, I think we're on the right track. We all, I think Reggie just had this way of showing us about being aggressive, but not to where you're causing issues or getting in their way, or like kind of like bugging them. But like we were saying earlier about following up, if somebody needs product or wants more, you're going to make a note. Either you send yourself. They got the technology. And when I first started out, the cell phones weren't really a big deal.
A bunch of sticky notes, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of notepads in your car. Where now, you went from the big phone. Now everything's small, and it's basically like your lifeline is your phone, your computer, and your emails and important texts. So the calendar, I think if you're showing that customer that you care about them, whether they're a small account or a big account, you show that you want to help them grow their business and increase sales. I think we get a lot of business that way, just because they know you care. And I think you take some time. Sometimes you have to take extra time, even though you have a busy schedule. Everybody's busy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the way the society is. Nobody just says, God, I got so much free time, I don't know what to do with it. It's the opposite. Whether you have families or multiple businesses, everybody's got a lot going on in their life. So I think if you can show these customers that you want to help, instead of just going in the door, grab the order and leave, see you next week.
Yeah.
Where you can say, like our guys, we always try to tell them take a look around. What are you noticing that didn't come from our warehouse?
Yeah.
Because you usually know, when you're a sales guy, you know what your own brands are. Mm-hmm. It's like you go into a place and you know what equipment is yours and what isn't yours.
Yeah.
We're the same way. We pop in there and we'll say, hey, we noticed you're not buying this item from us. Could we give you a price?
Yeah.
It's something as simple as a couple sentences, and you might be able to get that business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of how we operate.
And it goes back to just, caring about the customer. Matt, last question I got for you. Mount Rushmore of business advice. If you have to give 4 pieces of advice to someone that's maybe in a business and they're just starting, or they've been in business for a while, what would be the 4 staple pieces that you'd tell them? Doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Let's see. No particular order. I would say don't be afraid to ask for advice. I think these people got to reach out. I think a lot of business owners get in there and they're afraid to ask what maybe the competition is doing. I think ask for to check to see what everybody else is doing. I think just your relationships you have with the people, showing people that you got to be personable. If you can't get along with it, whether it's a stranger off the street, no matter what that person does, you should be able to have a conversation with them and be able to know that they're comfortable talking to you and you can talk to them. I think you got to be willing to change. I think if you don't want to adapt you take your era of people, you're younger and I'm in my 50s and I still think sometimes that some people will never change, but I think the ones that will change and are up to try it or have the best chance of continued success.
Okay.
And I think that
That's 3.
yeah, I think you gotta I think sometimes you gotta be willing to take some risk. I think there's times where we look at it like, okay, we'll make a mental note, and if we go big on all in on one thing and it doesn't maybe work the way we want, it doesn't mean that we won't come back to it.
Yeah.
But we usually just make a mental note or a trail and say, okay, that we tried that a couple of years ago. It didn't go so well, but now here we are in 2023. Maybe we sit down and visit it again, and maybe we just give it a little more focus. We have a lot of times where we tell our guys, just because what we think we don't think this product is very good doesn't mean that
other people won't.
That's right. Doesn't mean that the public might say, God, this is a good product, and who sells it? Oh, Morelli's Distributing has it. So I think being willing to take a couple chances is in business. And I'm not saying, you bet it all on one thing and to go broke, but you have to I think having the being able to take some chances on maybe on people. Sometimes you have to give people a chance and say, I don't know if this person could be a fit, but let's give it a try. Yeah, let's give them a shot, and maybe somebody, everybody has different ideas. They can maybe bring a different angle to the business. We always tell our employees, we have employee meetings every so often, and we always tell them, you're our most important asset out in the market, because you see it, you see what happens. You overhear, maybe you hear the bar owner or the business owner saying, I need, I wish I had this or that. I wish I had that, or these guys are, or maybe a lot of times just products, and you say, hey, we have that.
Yeah.
Because you just, even though they don't see it. So I think that your employees are, if you treat them good and you're willing to listen to them, I think it just carries down, trickles on down to when they're in the market, maybe making deliveries where people will say, oh, hey, I ran into a couple of the drivers, and geez, we didn't even know you guys had so-and-so product. And they're like, hey, and next you know, you're selling things that you didn't think that you were going to be selling to that particular account.
Someone that needed beer, and all of a sudden, okay, now they need toilet paper too, whatever it might be.
For sure, yeah, because there's a lot of accounts that we don't necessarily have a sales guy that stops there. Mm-hmm. We just call them, they're call-ins.
Yeah.
They're either call-in, or we have some accounts in the country that's just a tell-sell. Yeah. Get on the phone. Hi, it's I'm Jenny from Morelli's, and wanted to check on how your supplies are. So because you have to also look at it as being efficient and economical with the business. Does it make sense for us to drive 75, 80 miles in the country when we can call them and say, here's what we have. Yeah. We'll leave you a list, and we'll just give you a call every other week at in the afternoon, and you just give us your order instead of sending a guy with a car and a wear and tear on the van and things like that. So there's times where, not that you're singling anybody out to be mean, but you just have to look at it as a business point and say, is it worth? Are we is it makes sense when they're only ordering 4 or 5 cases of beer to send a guy all the way out to this certain place? Yeah. Most of them we try to hit them, even if it's not every time. It's like, well, okay, maybe it's been a little while. We probably need to go and make a face-to-face visit, right? And I think that the people in the smaller communities appreciate it. I not that the people in Minot don't, but it just seems like the people in the country they're just as happy or more than the people in the city to see you and visit with people. And maybe sometimes it's the smaller community. They don't see new people as often. Yeah. So I think it's good in a way that it's good for business that way too.
Awesome. Matt, thank you very much for coming on the show. Where can people find you? Where can they find Morelli's Distributing?
Well, I think we have Morelli's Distributing. I think it's morellisdistributing.com is our site. We have a Facebook page. Our gals at work, and we have a couple of my wife and my brother's wife kind of put stuff on our page for when we get new products and information and things like they may not know. We know ahead of time, so we want to share it with the public. But otherwise, we're just, if you want to come out to the physical address, we're in East Minot. We're on 6000 Highway 2 East in Minot. Cool. So
appreciate you coming on the show, Matty.
For sure.
That is episode 51 of the Minot Business Podcast. Thank you guys again for listening and watching. We will see you guys next week for episode 52.